So you could look at all of creation as a message from God, and God is saying, hey, this is how reality works, and it's being presented to you. Like the whole world, all of creation is logos, is language. So perceptions, the perceptions that you're having are the voice of God. Like all of this is being brought into being by the voice of God, and God is speaking to you. So you and God are somewhat outside of creation, like, right, if people are looking for God or if people are looking for their soul. And this is also why people confuse their soul for God. Like it's very similar in some ways. So the whole world, the whole universe, everything you could ever possibly experience or see, anything that you're experiencing is God talking to you. And the same way that, like, when I talk to you and you hear these words, it's causing you to imagine ideas, concepts, whatever. I'm eliciting these tones, and those tones are impacting you, and because they're a language, coherent thought forms are arising in your awareness. Right? Pink elephants. I just created that in your mind. And so I'm made in the image of God, but like a lesser form, just like you. And so my speech is a lesser form of God's speech. And so when God talks to you, it causes this to pop into your mind. And so there's a message in your life. There's a message in reality, just like there's a message in the sound of speech. Right? Like if you didn't know English, I would just be making noises. But with a little bit of study, you could start to find a coherent message in the noises. And so, like, that's the basis of symbolism. That's why the world seems symbolic. It's symbolic the same way that language is symbolic, because the world is a language. And so there's because it's a language, there's these corollaries and definitions. When you see definitions are identical, you're looking at the same concept. So my big thing that I like is consciousness, metaphysics, things like that, the mind, just phenomena in general. And when you get down to studying phenomena in general, or mind, you're looking at, like, what are the properties of mind? What are the properties of awareness? So the properties of awareness would be that it's around and it contains all things. Anything that you could possibly experience, your awareness is enveloping. That is arising in your awareness, and that's why you're conscious of it. So that's all things. And so then you can look into and you go, well, what are things? Things are an activity of the sensory system. Things are an activity of your sense organs, including even your brain, maybe. Like your brain is a sense organ for thought, or a certain type of thought, a certain type of mind, right? Like every sense organ is sensitive to a certain type of mind or a certain type of phenomena. So when you have a vision of something, like a car, we can study reality, right? We can study this thing that God is presenting you, this language, and we go, okay, optic nerve, eyeballs, vision is related to the eyes. Vision is something the eyes are doing. What are the eyes doing? The eyes are modulating nerve impulses. All the nerves in your body are firing at a particular frequency, and your eyes and your other sense organs change that frequency. That frequency of neural impulses and everything that the nerves are tied to is where the perceptions are coming from. By messing with the nerves, we can get rid of perceptions, we can induce perceptions. And so the activity of the nerves, like perception, has something to do with the body. So all the things that you're seeing are in the body. And so all the things that you're seeing, we know it's metabolic activity of the sense organs and modulating the entire body. And we know that that metabolic activity, what is it happening in? It's happening inside of water. So the exact same way that we know that all of your perceptions are happening in awareness, and we also know that all of the perceptions are happening inside of water because they are metabolic activity. It's an activity of the breath. So this is the meaning or the symbolism of water. Water is the container of all phenomenological things that your body can present to you. And remember, this isn't how the world works. This is a language. This isn't reality. Reality isn't reality. Reality, as we see it, as we perceptually understand it, reality is a message about reality. The world is a message about reality. The world is a message from God to you. The speech, God's orating, talking to everybody personally, but also broadly and generally, right? Like the voice of God is coming from every perspective simultaneously. So it's both universal and specific, collective and subjective. And so everyone's hearing the same thing from the collective or objective voice, and then everyone's also hearing a specific subjective voice. And they're not the same, but they're not going to be in conflict with each other either. Right? So the message about awareness has to do with water. That's why the mystery, the entry into the mystery of Christ, the center point of time, right? It's people think history and time and human behavior and stuff like that is some sort of accident, right? Like the calendar was just centered around the death of Christ, AD and BC, right? We just changed it recently because people have quote unquote stopped. You can stop listening to God, but you can't stop hearing God. So then people try and change reality or interpret it in a different way, right? Like you could have a conversation with somebody and you can interpret their speech disingenuously or not listen to them. And if you want to understand how that's possible, just have kids, right? Like speak to somebody on a much lower level than you, and you can imagine that's an aspect of what it's like for God to speak to you. And that's also an aspect or an encounter if you think about how it is for a 2-year-old to listen to an adult. That dynamic is always going to be present when you're listening to the objective voice of God. That's this impossible standard, this thing that you're pretty much always wanting to rebel against, etc. It makes sense over time and you eventually adopt it. But water is the entryway into all this. That's what water is, the substance that holds the objective voice and it holds the subjective voice for everyone and everything. Like water is this thing where water holds all the neural impulses, is the awareness holding perception. That's true for you, it's true for squirrels. Like just anything that you can perceive that is of life that has any influence on you whatsoever, any bearing on you whatsoever, is happening inside of water, or is happening inside of your awareness. How you change your perceptions, how you influence reality, is kind of like what you're saying back to God. So the world is this conversational space that you can speak into, and when your soul speaks into the world, it changes the world. It changes where you perceive your hand to be. It changes where you perceive things. It changes how you perceive things. It changes what things are. And so when people dig into like the truth of, they go, oh, what is this speech? What is this world? What is the logos? Is kind of missing the point. You know, primarily because can those questions really be answered? Probably not. And so you can dig into that and you can find out like, oh, you might understand that like my speech is air molecules vibrating, which is then vibrating a sensor in the phone, and that sensor in the phone is changing the ones and the zeros, changing of the internet. It's changing how the ones and zeros of the internet are arranged, and then your phone is capable of reading those ones and zeros and moving a speaker and recreating my voice on this end where you're watching the video. You might fully understand that, and you could even program it. You could learn how to listen to new stuff. You could do all sorts of things, but you might miss you might miss what I'm talking about. You might not understand anything that I'm talking about. And so that same thing can happen with people. So you could have a very advanced understanding of language, but you might have a very poor understanding of the meaning. You might have an advanced understanding of what's happening, but no understanding of the meaning of what's being said to you. That's probably what people call humility. Because what's being said to you by God is incomprehensible in the way that you can understand language. Because it's using the comprehensible to convey a message, just like my voice or my speech is using the vibration of air molecules to convey a message. You could study these vibrating air molecules and understand sound to a very, very, very deep degree. And be oblivious to the language in the sound. And so the language in the sound is outside of the medium within which there is sound. And again, so that medium within which there is sound, that medium within which there is vibration, like light is just a different type of sound in a different type of medium. And then that medium that contains light, that medium that contains sound, that medium that contains everything that you could study is water. And so water is behaving exactly like your awareness behaves. So like if you're interested in human psychology, the evolution of the soul, the interconnectedness of awareness, etc., then you're going to be looking at water as the primary word in this reality by which you could study what God is saying in the language of God, which is perception, right? Because it's not anything that you could know, because as you know things, it changes your perception. There's no way to get at the root of this language, because as you learn things, it changes your perception, so the language advances. The language of your perception advances as your understanding perception advances, and so it's always outside of the world. So yeah, that's all. I guess yeah, I just really want to share this. So if anybody wants to learn it, we'll take any sort of price tag off of it. It's obviously worthless. But I just want to get this off of my chest. I'd like to get this out of my responsibility of knowing. And so if you would like to learn this language, I guess just like DM me or something, or text, I guess you could call. I've been working with water in this like absurdly immersive way for the last decade or two or three. And so this is the language having to do with water. And there's no, I don't know of any, I can't get any more degrees or certifications or anything. There aren't any. I think this is like incredibly important work, but it's I don't know. There's no teacher training course I can go to, you know?